Welcome to the Grand Review. This is the show that's all about movies and movie news. That's right. Every week we sit down, we talk about a movie, and then we talk about movies that aren't out yet, and then things that did come out that we think are funny because they were bad. That's basically the show. I'm your host, the man who's here, Garrett Ray. And joining me as always, it's another man who's here, Sandy Delia.
Thanks, Garrett.
I really pulled out all the stops this week on the intro.
Simplistic, just like the film that we saw.
And just like the man who said it. They always said I was simple. Anyway, so well, if you've never joined us on the show before, first off, thanks for joining us. Second, here's how it works. We're going to go through and do a spoiler-free review of this week's movie right up front, and then we'll let you know when we get into spoilers, and there will be time codes down in the description so you can kind of find stuff. And we're going to talk about Robert Zemeckis' new movie this week. So he came out with a movie simply titled Here. And it's definitely an interesting film in a lot of ways, and I think there's a good amount to dig into. But we're going to do spoiler free first. So if you don't know what the movie's about, look at the trailer. The internet, you're listening to us on the internet. What are you doing? No, I'm kidding. If you don't know what the movie's about, essentially, it's just the story of a couple of different families who have lived in the same house, or also some dinosaurs who lived in the same part of the world, but not for long. And it's just basically what happens in this one spot in the world from the beginning of time until 2020 something.
Small history of Americana too. I thought. That was the main thing that was appealing to me about this film. Yeah,
it was doing some interesting stuff. I think it would probably qualify as like slice of life type of movie.
It's one of these films. This is a great example of a movie that I like that has no plot at all. Yeah. So now you have seen something and see why I like these kind of films. Since everything else that I mentioned, you're like, I haven't seen it.
I'm seeing things now. But
okay.
I do think that it's not to sound too much like a critic, but this movie defies definition of genre. If you think about it, really, it's something that kind of stands apart from the general sort of, we would classify things as a drama or a sort of point of view movie, but this doesn't really fit in any of those categories. It's kind of doing something new and different. Now, does that mean it's good? I don't know. It's hard to say, really, because it's kind of a new medium. But I do think that I'm British. I could sound snooty, but I'm gonna instead sound like an idiot with stupid opinions.
You sound like people I went to film school with.
I know. that's who I was making fun of.
Yeah, that's
your class.
Actually, that's pretty accurate. All you needed was like a cigarette hanging out of your mouth.
Oh, yes.
That was it.
Maybe an ascot.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it kind of defines genre,
And those are the kind of people, too, that said I should be a film critic, and look what I'm doing now. As I told them, God, no, I don't want to be you. Yeah.
I do, I know I get a rap for kind of being too harsh on movies, and that's fair. But I think, like, I try to at least have a story reason for things that I'm critical of most of the time. It's not just, I'm not trying to sound smart. It's not something I'm capable of. I'm trying to figure out how the kind of artwork of storytelling works and kind of exploring that. That's kind of where I'm coming from. But if I do sound snooty, you're probably right.
No. Well, in that instant you did, but
well, that was on purpose.
Yeah, that was normally you don't.
So, all right, let's get into it then.
Okay,
so this is the spoiler-free section. Andy, what are your thoughts on the movie Here by Robert Zemeckis, starring Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, Paul Bettany, and Kelly Riley?
I really liked it. It's just like I said moments earlier, that it's one of these films that doesn't have a defined story, and I like the fact that it's kind of Americana history. Did it need to go back to the dinosaur age? Probably not.
I disagree entirely. That was the best part of the movie.
Because at first I was kind of like, what am I watching, 2001: A Space Odyssey? I'm not getting Kubrick's version. That's not where. But I like that, and I just liked how it was made. With all the little boxes in the big box and how every piece unfolded, it was like putting together a jigsaw puzzle in real life, but with film.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool how everything is put together, how everything is juxtaposed, how it looks, and how it comes out.
Yeah.
And it's Unfortunately, it's not doing well.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough. So budget of 45 to 50 million so far over the weekend. Box office of 5. So not doing super
good.
awesome.
Nope.
But on the bright side, it's a lower budget, so it won't lose as much as Joker
Or even Venom at this point.
Venom. Yeah, actually, that one's really surprising me. It seems like the kind of dumb fun that people would go watch, but it hasn't been doing hot. Man, I liked this. So full disclosure, I didn't see the last 3 minutes of this movie because
you walked out right before the end.
I tried to hold on, but there
you were having some problems.
There was a rumbly in my tumbly, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Andy. I wish for death. I really did.
That's not good.
And for a moment, I thought I was gonna go out the same way Elvis did.
Oh,
I almost passed
in
out.
my movie theater to boot. That would have been, oh my God.
But imagine, My Legend was born at Grand Avenue. It could have ended there too.
So there was about 10 or so years ago at a Cinemark, somebody died in the bathroom and they didn't discover it for 3 days.
Whoa. So that just tells you shouldn't go to a Cinemark bathroom.
Right. But also it tells me whatever GM got fired.
Oh yeah, for sure.
From working for them. If you don't check that stuff, you're supposed to go through the building at the end of the night.
Yeah. You should probably just gotta press on doors and see if someone's in there, lighting up a stogie, doing some methamphetamines,
and that's the staff.
That's the staff. Worse at Alamo Draft House.
Yep.
Thanks, Sony. Good job on that takeover.
Yeah.
I liked this movie, though, because I thought that from a technical standpoint, it was such an interesting kind of exercise. And so this movie is probably not more than any other movie out there, but is on par with some of the biggest action, CGI fest movies as far as the compositing work goes. So if you're not familiar with that, compositing is essentially taking two images and cutting out the parts you want and making them fit together, matching lighting and things like that, and getting it all to work together. And I actually was watching the side of the frame for a little bit because there's a light switch that's really close to the edge of frame but not quite touching it. And when you pull focus on a lens, there's something that happens. It's called focus breathing. And some lenses it's much more controlled on than others. But there was still a little bit of focus breathing when they go from deep focus out in the room to close focus when people are standing right in front of the camera. There's still a little focus breathing, but every time they bring in something, it matches perfectly. So what happens with focus breathing is in order for the lens to change focus, it actually does zoom just a little bit. Just on bad lenses, it does it a lot, but there's still just a tiny amount of zoom, and you don't see it on a lot of high-end lenses, and you're not going to notice it. But this, you're looking at the same room the whole movie, and I saw the edge. I was watching because I was just like, when they come close, are they at an F40 or something so that everything's just constantly in focus? But no, they did have to pull focus, and stuff would go out in the back. I'm like, they must be doing some sort of compensation in post-production for whatever focus breathing is happening, but it was still there a little bit, but then it never seemed to move. So they were very good about the compositing in this movie, the way that they approach doing everything from a single camera angle through the whole movie. And there's some shots that really I was just like, you're blowing my freaking mind right now.
I always kept focusing on the right and left, the right hand of the screen, the television sets throughout the year.
Yeah.
And the left hand of the screen, the telephones. So between looking at everything in between that too, but I always kept my eyes kept moving over to one part of the screen or the other as everything was evolving and going through time, just to see the history of stuff and how they were changing. Just every little thing in that room would change as to the time period that it was in. Just I can't even imagine the continuity director on this.
Gosh.
And whoever did it, my hat's off to them. Just amazing work.
It's one of the most difficult things to do is to match the same room.
Right.
And do you want to? I was going to save this for spoilers, but I think it really sets the tone for how incredible an achievement this is technically. 5 years ago, you could not have done this with the de-aging and it worked this well.
So is that why
really
Zemeckis decided to do this now then?
That's one of the reasons, yeah.
Okay.
2, I was sitting there watching it going, okay, so logistically to do this, you would have to you would have to lock the camera off. So, okay, that makes sense. You can lock the camera off, change everything in the room, and you just need to make sure that camera never moves. But you do it all in one room. Mm-hmm. No, they had two.
Really?
They matched those cameras on two different sound stages perfectly.
Wow. I would never have thought that.
I was reading the article and I started to feel my brain pour out of my ears going, how do you do that? It's like, and I understand that they could have gotten it really close and then like readjusted the frame a little bit, but the angles have to be perfect. And it's so well done. And I think
even the society commentaries throughout the ages through that thing are just very interesting. When it gets to the more modern era, it tackles COVID, it tackles African American plights and stuff that they have to go through, and just how all that is blended into one seamless film is just amazing to me.
The COVID stuff was kind of annoying to me. I was like, I remember. I just don't want to think about it anymore. But
like it or not, though, it's part of American history now.
Yeah, but like, I don't want it.
Too bad.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think that it does a lot of interesting stuff with kind of showing these different time periods, and you do get kind of attached to these different characters.
Right.
It definitely
even how history repeats itself. Because the whole thing with the influenza.
Oh, yes.
And then it comes back around again with COVID.
Yeah.
So it shows that history does repeat itself, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. And I think that it definitely focuses mostly on Tom Hanks and, Richard and Margaret's story. And it does do a lot of... I don't know. It's like their story's pretty general, but it still feels really personal. Do you know what I mean?
It's an every person's story. There's pieces of their life and even their parents, Tom Hanks's parents' life that somebody can relate to.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's unidentifiable or that, well, I can't imagine how that feels. I can't imagine that situation, because it's something that just about every person going to see that film, if you're an older person, should experience.
Yeah.
And, I know Jessica and I kind of relate to the later part of that, especially with the daughter getting older, going away to college, and now they're home alone. And it's kind of sad to see that on screen when we were seeing that, because we're going through that now.
Yeah.
In real life.
Yeah. We were, Hannah and I were probably both sitting there. Well, every time they argued about having a house, I was like, oh, here we go again. No, I'm kidding. Oh, the death stare I just got. Hannah's not on mic. She's doing homework, but she is here. I want a house too, baby. We just can't swing it right now. I keep thinking maybe the economy will turn around. Yeah, I like that it is just kind of a look at some of this stuff, and you don't. There's a narrative through line with Tom Hanks and Robin Wright's story, but it's pretty much just like, these are things we all experience. And right. I think it definitely, from Robert Zemeckis' standpoint, it's like looking back on his life and the lives of people he knows, and this is actually an adaptation of a graphic novel from what I understand.
Yeah. I saw that in the credits.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah. Though to look at all of that stuff and to look at a life in an hour and 40 minutes or whatever.
Right. And it's definitely the best thing Paul Bettany's done in a long time.
Okay. So that's something I wanted to ask you about. Is Paul Bettany good in this?
Yes.
Is he?
Yeah.
I just, maybe it was the dialogue was kind of hokey because they're trying to capture this different era. I don't know, just like...
Yeah, but it was just so nice to see him play something other than the MCU verse.
Sure.
And play a real person with real feelings, with real situations. And that was the story of a lot of GIs that came home from World War II, is they got these door-to-door sales jobs. They fell into some kind of addiction, one form or another.
Yeah.
Alcoholism was the biggest one that they all encountered as the first stages of PTSD before it was really categorized.
Yeah.
And how he handled that and going through the ages, I really thought his performance was good. I liked him.
I liked that. I thought the dialogue was kind of stilted sometimes.
Like, yeah, but can you blame him for that?
No, but like it made his performance... Like I don't know. I could just kind of feel him trying to figure out how to make it work with some of these sentences that are like, no one talked like that even, and I
no, I disagree with you on that.
I just couldn't get past like Okay, so a great moment. This is not really a spoiler, but when they're building the house at the beginning of the movie, and the guys are digging out the foundation, and the little girl comes up and goes, she's like, "What are you doing?" And they go, "Well, we're building a house." And she goes, "Down there?" And they go, and wave it off, and then she just kind of like skips off into history. It's like. Did we need that? Like it's weird and stilted, and they never answer the question. And there was just like little moments like that kind of got me a couple times with some of the older time periods. But also like I get that they're trying to.
Well, it was. I almost kind of felt that way with the Indian stuff.
Yeah, the Indian stuff was really weird. Why was that?
Solely to find out that there was a necklace buried in their backyard that was eventually worth a lot of money.
And that was the end of it?
And then my whole thing was, well, where was the family collecting on that thing that was very priceless? You dug it up in their backyard. You should be compensating them.
Right, yeah. But then instead, no one can ever buy a new house.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting kind of journey through all that. No, I do think it's interesting to look at all the different stages that one place will go throughout history, and especially it goes back to the Revolutionary War, and then before that when the Native Americans
because it was Benjamin Franklin's house that was right across the street from this other house.
Yeah, and there's I have a theory about the house that they live in that I'll get into in spoilers, but
turned into a crack house.
No. No, that's what Cinemark bathrooms are for.
It's in Philadelphia, so...
Well, fair enough. You might be right. Oh, goodness, man. It's a good movie. I think it's stark contrast to the best Christmas pageant ever, where like they're like, don't use the Lord's name in vain. And this one, they're just like throwing it out every 5 seconds.
Yeah, there's even an F-bomb in this.
I know. Is this PG-13?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And the F-bomb was dropped at the most appropriate moment because that character it was directed at.
Oh my gosh!
Because that was the first thing I told Jessica when we were driving home in the car. I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me with that."
That's like, the first thing I said to her.
That's why we're doing the podcast together.
Yeah, it was a good movie. I think that it's an easy recommend for. Probably not for kids, but for adults.
Even my teenage staff at the theater, I would not tell them, rush out and go see this because they're not going to get it. They don't have enough life experience, I think, to appreciate any of it. I think
I'm just barely on the cusp of really getting it because I'm 29 this month, so I've got I'm at that point where. Definitely the years most people would be like, those are my glory years are behind me, and I spent most of them poor. So I don't. But I think that, it really will hit home for you just how fast time flies and how much you'll go through and the stuff the decisions you make early on and how those affect your life in the future and it's very sweet. It's sad. There's a lot of sadness in there. I did kind of call the ending. But I think
it's not like it's not unpredictable.
Sure.
You know where it's going as soon as it starts.
Yeah, but I just wanted to feel smart. But never mind. But good, bad, great, or terrible. What would you say, Andy?
Good.
Okay, I just from an interest standpoint, I'm going to give it a great.
Okay.
Honestly, I really enjoyed. Yeah, seeing the way that they use like the frames will come in and it's like photos being overlaid and that's how you're kind of being transported through it. From a technical standpoint, so it's AI assisted de-aging, and I know AI, but what they were able to do on set is actually the director had 2 monitors, so he could see what was actually being shot, and he could see sort of a previs low res version of the de-aging happening while they were shooting it. So the actors could actually look back on like the shot that they just did and see what they would look like in that moment, and it kind of influenced their performance. And I read a really long article on how they did all that, and it was very interesting stuff. So if you're interested in the tools of filmmaking, I think there's I think it was a Variety article that goes into this, and Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks are talking about it, and it's really interesting stuff. And I
think this film should be a masterclass on how to do editing.
Sure, yeah,
like just utterly just mind blowing. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it is, and it technically it's VFX, because they're doing all the compositing and stuff.
It's still it's just amazing to see everything morph into these other worlds and other places in one picture.
Yeah, Yeah.
And I just really like that.
There's one thing I didn't like.
Uh-oh.
And it was the fact that the ground seemed really like weirdly higher in all of the stuff that had to do with the Native Americans. Something about that frame was off and fake. Like the background just really, I was like, oh, that's green screen. Boy, howdy. Ooh, that's fun. That's the only complaint I have.
Okay. So now we're moving on.
So, all right. Spoilers. So just if you don't want spoilers,
turn it off.
Don't just go watch the movie, then come back and listen to it. We need your ears.
There's not much of a spoiler to this film. Like, if you saw the trailer for it, you kind of figured out the film.
Sure.
But it's still interesting enough to sit and watch to see what you didn't see in the trailer.
Yeah.
But like spoilers, there's not really much spoiling to this film.
But we'll just we're delineating it for those who might be picky pants.
Like you.
Yeah, call me out, but sure, yeah.
Okay.
I really liked that. Yeah, we got the comet that wipes out the dinosaurs, meteor, sorry, and then we get the ice age. The ice age was on screen for a lot longer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, a lot of that was on screen for a lot longer than I thought it was going to be.
I was having fun. I was like, this is the Robert Zemeckis I know.
It was almost like this is the old person's Back to the Future.
This was, well, I mean, that would make sense, I suppose.
Kind of, when you think about it, really is.
Yeah, I mean, he's
because
go with what you know.
It jumps around.
Yeah.
In time, it's not linear storytelling. That's. So did he go back to Quentin Tarantino and ask him how to do this?
I don't think anyone's asking Quentin Tarantino how to do anything after those long driving shots in whatever Hollywood movie.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That one, yeah. So there's a couple different stories going on. There's Tom Hanks and Robin Wright's story,
right?
And that's also directly connected with Paul Bettany and Kelly Riley, and so you see. At the beginning, Tom Hanks kind of setting up a couple of chairs, and it looks like he's selling the house, and
right,
and then it jumps back to the dinosaurs, the obvious thing to
back
do
to
there.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, those eggs got squished right there at the beginning. I was like, oh, okay, so got it. This is a movie where people are going to die. Because they just killed 3 babies, and yeah,
even more so than Wild Robot.
Yeah, surprisingly, that movie. Talk about a movie with a death count. Wild Robot was getting up there, man. But those stories are directly connected. But we also have some other stories. A guy who believes aerodromes are the future, baby. You'll see. All you need is good fuel management, luck, and weather. And so we've got that story going on. We have the period of history with William Franklin, who's Benjamin Franklin's illegitimate son.
Right.
And then we've also got
the guy that created the Lazy Boy.
The guy that created the Lazy Boy. His name's Leo, and he's married to Stella, who is a pinup model. I don't know if that's true, but it's
so that explains why she was like vacuuming in her underwear like the entire film.
Is that not how you're supposed to do it?
Well, maybe not. I guess when you have carpet like that, I guess so.
I mean,
we don't have carpet, so
I just like
we have Rosie that takes care of that, which is what Jessica nicknames our Roomba.
Yeah. She's sitting over there menacingly. Yeah. I don't know what she's going to do. Rosie, not Jessica. Jessica's sitting there, but not menacingly. No, she gave us the look. If the mics go dead, you know what happened. But yeah, I thought it was interesting to go to those stories, and I know that that's kind of the point, is like everything that happened here in this spot. But I also kind of just wanted maybe. I don't know. I was trying to figure out why they were there outside of the concept. The concept is what happened here, and so it makes sense in that stance. But then, like, maybe I don't know. Maybe I wanted a little bit more of those characters too, if we were gonna talk about them.
Yeah, but you got enough for what the story needed to keep it going. If it went even further with those, and this was like a 2.5 hour long film, it would have been overboard and just kind of boring and drawn out.
Yeah, it definitely it doesn't overstay its welcome.
No,
it ends when it should.
Right.
I assume I was dying in the bathroom, but and
you actually got to see like. The camera turns around and you see the kitchen and the dining room behind the living room, and then it pulls out of the house and it gets a street view of like the entire neighborhood.
Yeah, well,
you missed that.
Stupid bowels.
TMI.
I did. No, it's fine. We all do it. Like, I don't know. You can pretend you don't poop, buddy, but we all do. All right. I'm going to cut that out.
I just don't talk about it on the podcast like you do.
Look, here's the deal. I think we can we're adults here, except for Drew, who's listening. But he poops too, so I don't care.
I'm trying to pick up girls with this.
Drew, don't show them this episode. There's too much poop talk.
Yeah.
It won't work. But yeah, I wanted a little bit more of those just because I was interested in those characters, you know. And here's my theory, by the way, about the house. I kept thinking that at some point that pilot guy was going to die, and he did. Not from a crash, though.
Right, but not from the crash.
From the influenza.
Which, loops back to COVID.
I was so very much expecting for when they were leaving the house, and the girl pipes up and she goes, "I'm going to miss it here, Mom." And she goes, "I won't," and then walks out. I was really expecting her to go, "Come along, Amelia." I thought it was going to be Amelia Earhart. I really did. And there is
some missed opportunities like that, I think, in this film.
Yeah. What were some other ones you can think of?
Well, the lazy boy guy could have been somebody else.
Sure.
I'm not entirely sure. Since they didn't they try to connect it with the TV as well?
Yes, yeah.
With the recliner?
The lazy boy is like a perfect companion to a TV set was what the
So I guess you couldn't say that his name was Sony because that wouldn't have made any sense, but
they're doing great over there. What are you talking about?
What if he was Victor RCA?
Oh, goodness. Now that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
Now, for you kids who don't remember this, RCA was the radio something. And I guess I'm one of those kids who doesn't remember. Anyway, RCA used to be a big deal. They barely exist now. I think they make knockoff batteries. The branding's been bought. Yeah. Anyway, I liked Al. I liked his performance for the most part. I do still think that, like...
Even though you were criticizing me like 5 seconds ago.
No, now hold on. The dialogue, I think, is still stilted and bad.
Okay,
but that's not Paul Bettany's fault.
Correct. I will concede that to you.
I just think that by halfway through the movie, I was like, this guy sucks. What is he going to die?
He's not a likable character. I think that's the whole point.
Yeah, it's really good
at
he
doing that. He pretty much crushes Tom Hanks's character.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks wants to be an artist, and, unfortunately, he knocks up Robin Wright.
Robin Wright, yeah.
That he has to get a real job. He gives up on everything and stays in this house with his parents until they move away through horrible circumstances. Yeah. And his character is not likable. He's not supposed to be.
Yeah, he's not likable, but he is. I think you can empathize. He went and he was in the war, and you get that glimpse into, he watched a guy's jaw get shot off, and the fact that he's dealing with that, and then the alcohol kind of becomes worse and worse throughout time, and then when Rose has
I think
her
was why
stroke.
he lost his job.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that seems pretty obvious.
Yeah. And you can tell that even though he's not sure how to do it, he's trying to protect Rich from making the same mistakes he did.
Right.
But then Richard makes the same mistakes and does the same stuff. And I think it does touch on how we get more from our parents than maybe we think we do sometimes, and we kind of will put ourselves in those same situations that they'll try to warn us from.
But it's interesting because my dad wanted me to be something more than what I turned out to be, but I'm happy of how I turned out. So
I'm not saying parents are always right.
Yeah,
Lord knows I won't be. but yeah, I think that there's some good stuff about.
Just life in general.
Yeah. And I wish I had a more intelligent way to say that so I could smoke a cigar and have my ascot and sound fancy. But I just think that it's doing it in a way that I never would have expected to be entertaining.
Right.
But I was. It moves along at a clip. Like, it's got better pacing than Borderlands.
And meanwhile, they're the same runtime.
Are they really?
Just about.
Borderlands seems so much longer.
Yeah, Borderlands is like an hour 40. This is an hour 44.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not fake.
Okay.
Yeah. And I enjoyed watching, Tom Hanks trying to like re-embody the way he acted when he was younger. Tom Hanks and Robin Wright do a great job. I think they're fantastic. I also, Kelly Riley's great in this. She plays Rose. Yeah.
Rose.
And the AI, there's a couple of close-up shots where you can tell the face replacement is like a little too smooth, maybe, but like it's way better than it was 10 years ago, for sure.
Oh, for The Irishman?
For like The Irishman, or for, when we got in Rogue One with Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing?
Yeah, it was Peter Cushing. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, and so not that those were necessarily bad, but this is better.
Well, or even like the original Crow, the last couple of scenes that they had to shot were CGI'd face of Brandon Lee onto the stunt double.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's come a long way since that. You can tell.
Yeah, and for them to be able to preview it in real time on set is an insane leap in technology.
And I guess you would have to credit James Cameron for a lot of that with Avatar. Like, he's kind of started that whole process that's almost an industry standard now, it seems like.
Yeah, well, and the other thing that I found out about this is like they don't have to do dots on faces or anything with this technology. It's just the actors on set.
Huh, that's cool.
And they could only preview up to 2 people at the same time.
That makes sense.
There's a little bit of that, but like that's just being held back by the amount of compute you have. That's really all it is. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of this stuff being used in the future. There's no way we don't.
So the question is, will it end up replacing actors?
Here's the thing. You can replace the face, but you can't change really the performance. I mean, maybe at some point you can't if you want to do a full animated character, but like that's not.
So is that where like Margot Robbie's The Sims is going to go?
I have no idea what that movie's going to be. I just know that
I have a feeling that this is the start of that, and how that's going to end up being made.
Would you watch a Sims movie where it's all set from one camera angle?
No. I don't even want to watch it to begin with more than one camera angle.
Fair enough.
I can't even imagine what a train wreck that movie is going to be.
Hey, I said the same thing about Barbie, and look at that. It's a phenomenon.
Well, and then that's it. CinemaCon Monopoly is in the works too, to do as a movie.
Are you sure you're not just talking about the Donald Trump movie that came out earlier this year?
No, that was The Apprentice. That is now on Apple Plus.
Is it really?
Yeah. It tells you how good that was.
Nope.
No, that's one of the things that they announced at CinemaCon was Margot Robbie's production company had Sims and Monopoly in the works. Or it might not have been Margot Robbie's company, but Monopoly is definitely in the works.
What do you do with that? Like, Battleship made sense. Even though it was dumb, it made sense that you could make a movie out of Battleship, the concept.
Yeah. So what's next? The Game of Life?
That's here.
They did. Exactly.
Sorry, I stole your joke.
No, you picked up on the cue I laid down. So perfect. Thank you, Garrett.
Yes, I'm smelling what you're stepping in.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's. I have no idea what a Monopoly movie could be like.
Okay, back on task.
I hope it's just a story about the shoe that you can play as. Is there anything about this that you don't like?
Other than the Indian stuff that I wasn't horribly overexcited about, just because I really had no idea where they were going with it.
Yeah. It just kind of peters out. But I also think that the story about the family that's there, during COVID, also kind of just peters out. Like Raquel dies, and then they just kind of move out.
There's not a lot with that, but it's short and sweet and to the point, and encapsulating the time that we're in. Sure, that's fine. Yeah. I was okay with that.
Yeah, I think I'm just. I want to erase everything from 2020 in my brain. It was a bad time.
So is Grand Avenue.
Yeah, I'm sure. That was a rough time for theaters. It was a rough time for humanity. It was a rough time for.
I still went to the theaters during that.
Oh, you were able to find some?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there was a theater in Austin that we went to that we saw Inception and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
They were just showing old movies?
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, not that Inception's that old, but...
Well, Jessica said that she'd never seen it, and I was like, you got to see this movie.
Inception's good, especially in a theater.
Yeah.
Wow, chef's kiss. Perfect. I loved watching that in the theater. I saw it twice.
Yeah. I think I've seen it like 4 times in the theater now.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see it again. It's really good.
And
Also,
Raiders too. Raiders is just one of my all-time favorites.
how can it not be?
Yeah.
It's a perfect movie. It's great.
It's not perfect, but it's close.
It's perfect for what it's trying to be. I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's got that old Spielberg magic.
Yeah.
so I can't fault it.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay, Rose is a character that I was really feeling for her a lot of the time, and I think that her having the stroke was probably one of the most heartbreaking things in the whole movie for me.
Yeah.
I was absolutely just like, and Hannah and I both were trying to figure out. We knew something was wrong because the ladder's
Right.
off to the side and stuff, but they hit her just well enough that you couldn't tell she was there.
You couldn't see her behind the boxes.
Yeah. And like once Robin Wright characters looks to the left and then like
sees it.
goes over there, I saw like, oh, her head's kind of peeking out there and stuff, but it was really well hidden.
Yeah.
And you're just like searching the frame. And I think that's one of the really cool things about this is the way that it's presented allows you to really look around. And like by the end of the movie, you kind of view this as like a second home. And you know, maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but like you're familiar with it. You're very much comfortable in that space. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was interesting. I did the first time that Margaret comes home and says, you know, I had to pull over and try to remember where I live. Isn't that strange? I was like, oh, this is going to end with dementia, isn't it?
Yeah.
It sucks.
As soon as it's mentioned, you know where it's going.
Yeah. And so the last thing I saw was when she comes back to spend Thanksgiving with Rich.
Right.
And he says, no, what could be better than cold egg rolls for Thanksgiving? And that was when I looked at the screen and said, I'm very sorry, Tom Hanks, but I've got to go try not to die. Goodbye. And I ran out. And so, and
the whole story at the end of the film too, where he's talking to her about how when their daughter had lost the blue ribbon in the couch and everything kind of sparked in Robin Wright's brain. And she's like, I remember that. I remember that whole story. I remember living here. And then that's how the movie ends.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think, so the way that it ends with her saying, I love it here. And earlier at the beginning of the movie, she said, I could spend my whole life here. And then she complains the middle of the movie the whole time because
they're stuck there.
Yeah, because they're stuck there. Just when you make promises to someone you're falling in love with, really, really think through what you're saying. Because, Hannah said she could spend the rest of her life with me, and now she's trapped. So
that look was good.
It's great for an audio podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was deeply saddened by them, splitting up. That's always like for me. It's a tough
that's
one.
the life coach.
Oh, okay, yes. This was the best part of the movie, though. Legitimately, Tom Hanks like, I can't believe you brought your shrink into our house. He's like, I'm not a psychiatrist. Well, then what are you?
I thought they were going to say marriage counselor. I thought for sure that was going to be the next line. Marriage counselor, life coach. Seriously? Yeah. I was like, get the F out of my house too.
The whole, most people find comfort from being in the same boat. Why are you here? Get to the point.
Yeah.
I think you should be in different boats and then just get the out of my house is such a great response. I was like, yeah, that's a man right there.
Life coach.
Life coach is the dumbest.
That's
just like, hey, I want to tell you what to do because I think I'm smarter than you, but I don't want to go through anything that would train me on how to actually help people.
And you have to sound ultra pretentious while doing it.
Oh, that guy, dude.
He had the voice. Whatever actor that was, perfect.
If I had an ascot, I would have jumped onto him and like pulled it around his throat and just.
I was hoping Tom Hanks would throw him out that bay window.
That would have been great.
And if there was a Christmas tree in the way, even better.
Yeah.
Boom, threw two things out.
Yeah. Look, if someone says they're a life coach,
run.
If they're charging you, especially, run. Oh my goodness. Life coach.
Even more so than an alien. Run.
Yeah. I'd rather get face hugged than deal with the life coach. I'd rather have to make out with that abomination from the end of Alien Romulus than deal with the life coach.
The fact that she even brought him home was just
Yeah.
Ugh.
That's you know what though? That is very much the kind of stuff that happens all the time.
Yeah,
When people get restless in a relationship.
Well, and that's the appeal to this film, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't pull any punches on this stuff.
No.
And I think that that's good, and I think that it's, art. Okay. let me pull out my cigarette and put on my French hat. But
okay.
The art is one of the few ways that we're able to take an honest look at life sometimes. As humans often, and we talk about this in the industry when you're writing dialogue, people don't say what they mean. They say, that's the whole idea of subtext, is that we're all kind of afraid to speak the truth because we're afraid we'll be judged for what we think, or because we don't want to offend somebody, or we're afraid that if people know what we really think that we'll be outcast, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And art is one of the ways that we're able to kind of express those ideas in a more full, real way,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this movie is doing that. And Venom's not doing that, really. It's telling a bit of an emotional story about this friendship, sure.
But then I guess this is an hour and 44-minute version of Boyhood.
Yeah,
that
kinda
didn't take as long to film either.
Turns out you could just turn on a computer and do that in about 33 days, because that's how long it took to shoot this.
Really?
They did it in 33 days.
That's wow.
Yeah, isn't that insane?
Yeah.
One of my favorite shots. I before I forget, when the family that's living there during COVID is moving out, he's pulling across this chest of drawers. And there's a mirror.
The mirror.
And the reflection in the mirror is like wobbling and stuff.
Yeah.
That's so freaking difficult to do, to replace a mirror and to get it to look right. And I just, from a VFX standpoint, I was sitting there going, this is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like, the rest of the stuff is really impressive too. But that one shot was just like, that's like, did you wobble the camera? Are you doing that in post? How are you achieving that in a way that works?
And that's why I think stuff for that alone is worth watching.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah. It's a great piece of art. I'm sorry, but I genuinely think that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's no G-force.
It's not G-force. No, I mean, nothing will ever live up to the mastery that is there's a mole and it's Nicolas Cage.
Or Drew discovered this past weekend Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh yeah, I need to go revisit that because it scared the bejesus out of me as a child, but that's because I had seen it.
This is a kid that won't even watch. We tried to watch Quiet Place Day 1 over the weekend. He got 10 minutes and shut it off.
Yeah,
but yet he watched the entire thing of Killer Clowns.
It's the clown part. That's the thing for me, because I was scared by it as a 3 or 4 year old.
Okay.
And that freaked me out. And my brother we would walk into Walmart and he would find the VHS thing. And he'd be like, hey, look, Garrett, we got Spider-Man. And he would point, and it was the freaking cover for it. And I would go screaming into the toy aisle and just like hide. and that traumatized me for a long time. I know actual clowns now. I've worked with ex-Ringling Brothers clowns on vaudeville stuff, and they're very nice. But every time they put the makeup on, I'm just like, I don't know if we can be friends anymore, man. I'm going to be honest with you. We all have our phobias, though. Like, spiders didn't scare me. I watched Arachnophobia. I was fighting with my brother to watch Arachnophobia instead of it. And it didn't freak me out. But lots of people, spiders, they can't do it.
I wonder when that remake's coming out.
Wait, is that an actual thing, or are you just guessing that at some point Hollywood
No, it's an actual thing.
Dig that deep. Oh, okay. Hold on. I know we'll return here in just a second. But
here we come.
Why? How dare they? After Jeff Daniels died for all of that. I mean, in the movie, does he die in the movie? I can't remember.
No, Julian. I don't even think Julian Sands did. Because Julian Sands was in the original.
Yeah, so it's going to be directed by Christopher Landon, known for Paranormal Activity and Freaky.
Oh, so that's going to be garbage.
James Wan and Michael Clear will produce. Amblin Partners and James Wan's Atomic Monster are involved. Huh.
It's still going to be garbage.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's not going to have John Goodman as the exterminator too, which was one of the things I really liked about the original.
Yeah. I think I didn't understand how funny it was when I was a kid.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's a pretty funny.
But
movie.
it also has some very frightening, creepy moments too.
Well, spiders are awful.
The girl, the older sister in the shower with the spider coming down on her. and like going down her body, and it's yeah. No,
I don't like
I can't do
spiders,
it.
but I can deal with them. I can't deal with if a clown dropped down on me in the shower. I would evacuate my bowels right there. I would not be okay.
kind of like you did last night.
Yeah, well, here does not cause constipation. That's just a me problem. Okay, well, whenever Arachnophobia, the remake, does come out, I don't care if one of us has died. We're getting back together for that one.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
But yeah, here, look, I think I'm giving it a great because I find it really interesting. I think probably a more like, as an entertainment product thing for the general audience, I give it a good. Like, I don't think some people will be bored by this. Maybe if they don't have enough life experience to really appreciate what it's doing.
And
Sure.
that's what I think.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you on that. But I do think that it moves along at a pace that really works. And does, and
it shifts gears at the right moment too.
yes, yeah.
And that's where I think that like the pacing on it's perfect.
Yeah, and from a screenwriting perspective, like all of that was planned.
Yeah.
So like, good job on the screenwriting there. Little punch up on the dialogue in a a few places. I think wouldn't have gone amiss.
It doesn't go into the multiverse.
I'm through with this multiverse crap. Yeah, but I liked it a lot, and I think that there is a lot there when it comes to pacing and yeah, just like the presentation of a film in general, that if you're interested in the art form of it, it's a really great look at a different way to do a film.
The sad part about it is when it comes down to like nominations for an award stuff, it's probably going to get overlooked.
I think so too. And that's a shame.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think the Academy will look at and be underwhelmed by, because most of the people in the Academy don't actually understand half of the stuff that's going on this screen. Because the Academy's made up of actors, it's made up of cinematographers, it's made up of a bunch of people.
I don't think they watch half of the stuff that they need to like make educated guesses on what they're voting for.
Yeah, and I also, the politics behind that whole system is,
Yeah, don't get me started.
Yeah, you think it's bad just watching the election happen this week. Oi, the Academy? That's worse.
Yeah.
Because of all the child trafficking and such. Anyway, don't turn a blind eye to it. Human trafficking is a very real problem. Really, go and look it up. Find out as much as you can if there's something you can do to help fight the scourge that is human trafficking.
Yeah, just don't come at me with Sound of Freedom again.
Yeah, well, there's that. But do get involved in some way if you can. There are kids out there who need help.
Yeah,
and adults. So,
yep.
All right. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of our review of Here.
News.
Let's talk about news. News. It's the newsy news. That's the theme song, though.
No news is good news with Gary Gnu.
What?
It's from a kid's thing when I watched when I was a kid.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. It's before my time, if you will.
Okay.
It's gonna get slapped. Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick are going to direct and star in Family Movie, a horror comedy which will also star their children. I think it's called Family Movie.
Okay. They did not watch like Pirates that they did when they were younger?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, that's a Kira Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon were in that, and they're pyromaniacs while they have sex.
I was on board for the first part. The second part, I don't know if it's necessary.
It's spelled Pyrates, pirates.
Ah, clever.
I got that from when I was working in a video store when I was in college.
Okay, well, we're not allowed to talk about those video stores on this show. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's based on a screenplay by Dan Beers. It follows an eclectic but tight-knit family of filmmakers who suddenly find themselves in a real-life horror movie when a body turns up on the set of their latest low-budget slasher. As the production spirals comically out of control, they realize the only solution to keep filming is to cover up the murder by any means necessary.
Okay, it sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'm interested in this. Like, I like Kira
Kevin
Sedgwick.
Bacon.
Yeah, Kira Sedgwick also on Brooklyn Nine-Nine is hilarious. I love her.
I haven't seen her or anything since that other TV show that she was
The Closer?
on. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that was what she was really famous for, but I'd never watched The Closer. But then when she showed up on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I was like, this girl's funny.
Oh, okay.
She's great.
I still like her in Singles.
Haven't seen Singles.
What a shock.
Oh, I know. Every week I give you a mighty heart attack where you're like, you haven't seen that, but I thought you'd seen everything. But yeah, they're going to...
No, that's my line.
The Bacon family will also produce the project for Mixed Breed Films alongside Norman Golightly at Dark Castle Entertainment. So
Cool.
yeah, it's
Is there a projected release date for it?
no, not in this article at least.
Okay.
By the way, just shout out, we're getting all the news from Joe Blow. And by getting I mean stealing. But it's okay because we're giving our own commentary, and that makes it a reaction channel.
That's right.
Sonic the Hedgehog 3. You're not excited for this.
No, not
I'm
really.
not excited for the movie. I am excited for Shadow the Hedgehog because I was a little boy who played the Shadow the Hedgehog game.
I've never played any of those games.
He has a gun. In the Shadow the Hedgehog game, you actually run around and when you shoot people and aliens, and then when he dies, he says the bad D word. And as a child, I was like, "This is edgy, yeah."
Oh, brother,
it's very bad. But
I got to sit through this movie with you too.
I'm very sorry.
Okay,
but at least
you apologize now.
This will probably be more fun than Wicked.
Good point.
But Keanu Reeves said he wanted to create a very fan-faithful version of Shadow, which I actually appreciate.
Oh, so he's the voice of it?
He's the voice, yeah. You know what's funny? I actually was thinking about this when the trailer came on. He says, "Well, you're a colorful bunch." And it's very much like, oh, yeah, that's Keanu Reeves talking. But it fits Shadow perfectly. Like, it's really good for that. But I was sitting there going, that line was delivered great. But then there's the line in the ballerina trailer where he goes, "Looks like you already have." And I'm just like, you couldn't do another take of that? What's wrong with you? It's so, is it just me, or is that a really weird line delivery?
Well, you got to figure too that's probably taken out of a couple of different scenes and lines that put together for that
Maybe
trailer.
So, yeah.
So that might not be how it actually plays out in the film.
Maybe so.
Because Lionsgate was really scrambling to get that trailer out.
Yeah. Well, the director of the original John Wick movies came in and apparently reshot, I think it was something like 60 to 70% of the movie after the director of Ballerina had already done it.
Oh, okay.
And he came in and was like, "This is not up to our standards," and went and reshot basically the whole thing.
Yeah, that's why it got delayed a year.
That's insane. And also
because it was supposed to come out this past summer.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this one. I've only seen the first John Wick so far.
Yeah,
but I have the first 3 on Blu-ray, and
I have 4.
Do you really?
Yes, I have all 4.
Okay, yeah. I do plan on watching them.
You're coming over and watching 4.
I'm going to tie you to the chair and you're going to watch it.
Jessica and Hannah can go out that night.
They can go watch Christmas movies. Jessica's like, yeah, I'm not watching that again.
No, the funny thing, like I took Jessica to see part 3, and when we came out of that, she's like, "I'm not seeing another one of those ever again. You're on your own."
I wonder if Hannah would have the same reaction she had to Monkey Man. It's pretty violent.
Oh, it's even more violent than Monkey Man is.
Is it? Do you think so?
Yeah,
really.
It is.
The first one?
Not the first one,
Okay.
but they progressively get worse.
Okay.
And then the fourth one is really violent.
Okay. I still think that nothing is going to top the kitchen fight scene from Monkey Man for me. That's like my favorite fight scene in the movie.
With the hot chili sauce?
The hot chili
I love
sauce
that.
and the microwave smacking people.
Yeah.
That was great. I love that so much.
I still think that's a better film than people gave it credit for.
Yeah, I think so too.
Except Hannah.
It's pretty. It's like well shot too.
It
like
is.
It's really well done.
is.
Dev Patel did a good job with it.
Yeah.
Too bad it's got some weird wonky stuff in it.
Yeah.
But okay. There's Fowler, who the director Jeff Fowler on Sonic the Hedgehog 3 said it's awesome that we got to work with Keanu Reeves. He loves the character. He thinks it's awesome. And then he said he would give us so many different versions of line readings and just want to keep going. It was not the sort of showing up and reading the script into a microphone. He really wanted to create a very fan-faithful version of the character. He did research. In our first meeting, he very clearly had gone and done his homework, which was awesome. I think that's awesome.
Well, considering he was in the last SpongeBob film as a burning bush.
What?
Yeah, he was in the last SpongeBob movie, and he's just like this glowing bush that his face is there and he talks.
Huh. He really will do anything.
Yeah, he will.
But you know what, though? This sounds like he really does kind of care about this character, and I think it'll be if you're a fan of Shadow the Hedgehog, this looks everything I've seen so far has made me go that's neat. That's cool.
I do like Idris Elba's voice as Knuckles. I do think that's cool.
Yeah, Idris Elba does a good job with it. I haven't watched the Knuckles TV show because I've heard it's mostly Adam Pawley just doing stuff and Knuckles is barely in it. And I'm like, it's called Knuckles. Adam Polly's not that funny.
Oh, okay. so I'm not missing anything there.
The dumb cop from the first one. I don't know if you saw the first one.
I saw the first one. I didn't see the second one. And I really don't remember a whole lot about the first one.
Well,
I just remember that I thought
God
it was better
gives us small mercies, Andy, and that was one for you.
Well, because most of the video game to movies that come out, most of them are not good.
No.
Sonic, I remember actually being not too bad.
Yeah, I remember thinking the first Sonic was like, this is not Sonic the Hedgehog, but it is a kid's movie and he goes fast, so fine. And then the second one, the first time I started watching it, I turned it off. And then the second time I got all the way to the end, and the end is just, it's nuts. It's just nuts, man. And like it probably only hit for me because I've fought giant Eggman robots in the games, but I was loving it. I was like, all right, they're finally going all the way. And then this movie, Eggman finally looks like Eggman because he's fat and bald now. And I'm like,
okay.
Yes, we finally got there. But yeah. All right. Well, that's enough Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay.
Amazon MGM says, yes, we can, to an animated Bob the Builder movie from Jennifer Lopez and Anthony Ramos.
Why?
I know. Doesn't that seem weird?
Well, considering they're spending, $220 million on Red One? If y'all got a blank check that Grand Avenue needs like a certain amount of money, just write it over to us.
We'll do something more interesting with it.
Yes, we'll give people entertainment.
Yeah.
Which is more than your film is going to do.
Yeah, Red One is not going to be good. Oh my goodness.
Projected $35 million opening.
For a $250 million movie, that's a problem.
Yeah.
What
did Todd Phillips direct it?
We're seeing embezzlement just happen, right? Like that's got to be what's happening.
Within Amazon too, because it's MGM/Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon. When did they buy MGM? Was it 2 or 3 years ago now?
Yeah. Because they own all the rights to the James Bond catalog.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Well, this project reimagines Bob the Builder with Anthony Ramos, who you'll love his performance from Twisters. He was the guy who like comes in and gives her a second chance. And he's the lead role. His adventure will be set in Puerto Rico. And the story celebrates the resilience and spirit of Latino culture, and the new setting offers much to Bob's outreach and influence, according to Joe Blow. I don't know what any of that means, but okay. But the story follows Roberto, so they're just race swapping Bob the Builder for whatever reason. I don't care, but like, why?
I'm sorry. I just can't even imagine kids being interested in that.
I don't know. Kids are dumb, though. I mean, let's think about this for a second.
They're not that
dumb. They're going to be like, Bob looks different. Then they're going to riot.
But then we play stuff like Gracie and Pedro and Hip Pig, and then we say that kids are stupid.
He's not a hit pig. He's not a hit pig. He's a private eye pig.
We're gonna have to watch this.
It should be it should just be PIG, private investigator guy.
I want to see your head explode while watching this film.
He doesn't do hits. That's a very specific thing. Gosh, so frustrating to me. If you haven't seen the trailer for Hit Pig, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to go watch it so you also can be frustrated by the misnomer that is Hit Pig.
And we're opening it this weekend at Grand Avenue matinees only.
You are more than welcome to come watch it, but God have mercy on your soul if you do.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to talk about Red One? Actually, it's the next news thing that I have. So early reactions have come out for it. So
this ought to be good.
Apparently, Junior Felix, I don't know who this is, but whatever, he posted, guys, I had a blast with #Red One movie. It's funny, full of great action, and even better characters. In a time when we truly need some good cheer in this world, Red One brings it and then some. Oh, and the world building is some of the best I've seen in a while. And then I believe there was an image of the gun being pulled from his head by the studio executive. And he lived.
Or no, I was imagining Jeff Bezos like loading 20s onto his hand as he's saying it.
Yeah. Another one more good sentence, and I'll let your family go. And you can keep the $30. It's a pretty good deal.
I can't, because the other thing that I had read was early test screenings of this did not go well.
That's what I had read.
Okay, so it's not just me. I'm glad it wasn't just me.
But this Joe Blow article, I think Joe Blow got paid off because Jonathan Sim makes no bones about the absurdity in the movie as he writes, Red One is one of the most ridiculous Christmas movies I've ever seen. Occasionally enjoyable, but Jake Kasdan directs this outrageous premise like a very serious action thriller, only ever pausing to have Chris Evans' character scream, "What is happening?" every few minutes. Mind-numbing stupidity, absurdly expensive, and somehow cheap-looking at times. Okay, that one turned around.
That's the one I believe.
Yeah.
And he said that it's the worst that he's ever seen. Oh no, I can top that. Okay, Deck the Halls. That's a bad Christmas movie. Santa Claus 3, another bad Christmas movie.
Santa Claus 3 was really disappointing to me. The Tim Allen one, right?
You know, and it made
Martin
me.
Short should have been great.
I saw enough of that, and I hadn't seen the other two to never want to see the other two ever. That was I was done.
Yeah, they're not my favorite movies, but
actually the one that I kind of like, but it's a stupid movie, Unaccompanied Minors.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, these kids that are left in an airport like overnight on Christmas Eve, and they have to like corral them all. And Louis Black is like the head of the airport.
Oh, really? Okay, that sounds fun.
It's a dumb movie, but it's kind of funny.
Hey, I have no problem with dumb movies.
And
I think I've shown that.
Sadly, Terry Garr was in it, who passed away this week. So
Terry Garr. Ooh.
She was in Mr. Mom. She was in Young Frankenstein.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. That's sad.
Great actress. Yeah. I think she had cancer.
Oh.
And she finally passed away.
That's brutal. Wow.
But Mr. Mom is, definitely the one that probably everybody knows her for.
Yeah.
Or Young Frankenstein. So, would you like a Rollins-Yay? It's one of the best lines.
I've seen like most of Young Frankenstein in bits, and I've never just sat down and watched the whole thing.
Sit down and watch that from beginning to end. It's hilarious. Yeah. Mel Brooks, that and another one that Mel Brooks did, Silent Movie. The only person
I might have seen that.
The only person that has the speaking line that is Marcel Marceau, the most famous mime ever.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yep. Those are great movies from the 70s.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have seen To Be or Not to Be. I think it's the title
that's
of
the
it.
one I haven't seen.
It's pretty good. And I've seen Blazing Saddles, of course.
Yeah.
I finally saw that a couple years ago. And boy, talk about movies you couldn't make nowadays.
So you know that really bad kid film that came out a couple of years ago, Paws of Fury, is a loosely remake of Blazing Saddles. It's the exact same story.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
First off, why?
Even the makers of that film said that.
Really?
Why?
Oh, goodness. Man, film history is full of so many fun little disasters.
Yeah, and I know all of them, unfortunately. Sure that of useless information that I have.
And now you even know about Little Italy because I unwittingly tricked you into it. Sorry
I
about
will
that
get
again.
even for you for that.
Oh, goodness. Hunter Bolding, this poster review, said, I'd love to say how bad I thought Red 1 was, but to be honest, some holiday cheer came over me, and it ended up as a fun romp through the North Pole. Very cute.
So did he see the Best Christmas Pageant after that, and that's why he kind of rubbed off?
Yeah, it was like, Jesus wouldn't have been mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, other people full on glowing about it.
I can't. They got paid off.
Kristen Maldonado would also be wowed by Red One's world building around the known lore of Santa Claus and the North Pole, saying, it's an action-packed holiday showdown, but my favorite part had to be the mythology introduced. They level up the holiday magic we know and love while adding a fresh perspective with mythological characters we don't often see represented. A blast for the whole family.
I think I'd rather see the fake film at the beginning of Scrooge the Night the Reindeer Died with Lee Majors.
I think I'd just rather listen to Weird Al sing The Night Santa Went Crazy. That's a great song.
Yeah, that is.
I think... Matt Neglia looks to be agreeing with the bad buzz as he feels that all the ridiculousness has caused the film to fall short, saying, putting Red 1 on the naughty list for 2024. Unfunny and visually repulsive. Even the action lacks excitement and entertainment.
Well, what do you expect from somebody that made those crappy Jumanji films?
I know, yeah. The only watchable scene features Christopher Hivju in full-body prosthetics as Krampus, slapping the coal out of Dwayne Johnson. Now that I'll enjoy. Because
that's probably so. Can we just fast forward to that part and watch that, and that's it? That's all we have to watch.
Sure, yeah, we could do a full hour on that. Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be bad. I do want to go into it thinking kind of the same way I did about Venom 3. Like, this is going to be garbage, but, can I have fun with it? Because I genuinely don't want to hate any movie.
We'll have fun ripping it apart, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I didn't have notes for this week's movie, but I'm going to have notes for this one. But like, I think that maybe with some movies, that is just the fun of them, is going like, this is ridiculous and you're all very silly for doing it, and getting to talk about it. Like, it even a bad movie can have an entertainment factor. It just may not be what they intended, and that's unfortunate for the people making it, but it can be.
I have the exception to that. Borderlands.
I said can, not does.
Okay, you got me there.
All right, Todd Phillips. We've talked about this off pod.
He's our whipping boy lately. I swear to God.
At least he's employed.
We're
not paying him a lot, but Todd Phillips, he says that theaters should stop showing commercials before movies. Let me see if I can find the exact quote.
It's from Variety.
So he said, okay, so Phillips told Empire that one simple fix could help make the theatrical experience more enjoyable. Stop showing commercials before the movies, he said. We've paid for our tickets. We're excited to be there. The commercials tend to take the air out of the room. And look, the way Cinemark does it, he's not wrong. in a way, because think about it this way. When your pre-show is 45 minutes, and that's starting at the time the movie's supposed to start, yes, I get that that's frustrating.
Well,
we talk about it.
It used to be a half an hour.
Yeah.
Like it used to, when I worked for Cinemark, you had to have at least a half hour between the drop time of your film and the beginning of the next film, because that's how long that pre-show was. It was a half hour long.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's you had to do your time schedule accordingly.
Mm-hmm. And now it's longer.
Yeah, not to the better either.
Yeah, and not at Grand Avenue, just to be clear.
If I got to see Maria Menounos' like ugly face on screen again.
Why is she there? I don't even know who you are, Maria Menounos.
At one time, she was the most downloaded woman on the internet, and I don't know why.
That is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing to be known for.
Yeah.
But I am going to strive for that in 2025. That's my New Year's goal. I'm going to become the most downloadable woman on the internet.
When we get Coke to sponsor this.
Yes. I understand his point, but here's the thing. Advertising is just how the world goes around. And you can't get around that fact at this point. And movie theaters exist because there is money coming in from advertising.
Right.
They cannot survive. We've talked about off mic to not, give away any
theaters
secrets,
can't, Grand Avenue is a little different because we don't subscribe to any of those pre-shows.
Right.
Like we make our own.
Yeah.
So, and even like Alamo Drafthouse used to just make their own too, fitting to the film that they were showing beforehand, which they used to be really cool. Now they suck.
Yeah.
Because thanks to Sony.
Thanks, Sony.
So the ad revenue that Fathom and NCM creates for a lot of the bigger chains goes back to the theaters too, from the advertisers that pay the money for the ads and so on and so forth, and the sponsorships. So that keeps theaters going when the movies that are out at a certain time of year are absolute garbage.
Thanks, Sony.
That nobody is coming out to see.
Yeah, and
the spring this year really was uneventful for films. It was bad.
And the thing about a movie theater is it is dependent on the quality of the work that's being put out by Hollywood. And I'm sorry, but I do think there is a downward trend in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there is.
We are not seeing a new renaissance of filmmaking right now.
And we're not
There's
getting
some great stuff out. Don't get me wrong.
And we're not getting the amount of titles that we used to either.
Yeah. It definitely seems like there's longer dry spells, but then also like we've ended up with way more double features this year, than I ever expected us to. Yeah. It's like spread them out, ding dongs. Like you're driving me nuts. But yeah, it's. I understand the sentiment. I hate ads. Anywhere I can, I pay to not see ads.
Yeah.
But at the movie theater, look, the thing is, like, first off, you can just show up 15 minutes after the start time if you don't want to see them.
At Cinemark.
At Grand Avenue, at 15 minutes, the movie is starting.
Just
one of the things that I love about Grand Avenue Theater. And then, look, I know this sounds like a paid product placement, but we are making no money off of this. I just genuinely love that there's ads before the start time, and then 15 minutes of trailers, and then the freaking movie. Instead of Maria Menounos going, sorry, but I have to go, and me going, I did.
I didn't want to see you come to begin with.
Right, yeah, get out of here. This isn't the internet. I'm not downloading you. Go away.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
It used to be there was a thing where you could play video games on the screen with your phone too.
Oh, really?
Like from the images that were on like the pre-show. Yeah, I thought that was stupid too.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah,
also,
it is.
And no one cares. And also,
No.
you don't want people to have their phones out in there.
No,
Like,
you put your phone away.
yeah. Lily James, she is going to be in a reboot of Cliffhanger.
Okay, I knew Cliffhanger was getting a reboot,
Oh, you
and
did?
I just didn't understand why. Well, I can't say that I didn't like the original. I actually the Stallone one, and John Lithgow's the bad guy in that too, which is always good
great.
to see.
Yeah.
But it's Rennie Harlan that directed the original one too, so it's not horrible. The story's very simplistic. The aerial shots on that are actually pretty good too. And if you have a fear of heights, it doesn't help. Which goes like the other film I saw this past year called The Fall. If you're afraid of heights, don't watch that film at all.
The Fall.
Yeah.
What is that about?
The two girls that climb like a radio tower and it starts to come apart.
Isn't that's who produced that?
It's a great little movie, but if you're scared of heights in any way, shape, or form, don't watch it because it won't help.
Okay, so an interesting thing about that movie, it was produced by BuzzFeed Studios. BuzzFeed Studios put out a bunch of stuff. Do you remember all the around the time that it would be like 10 cats that totally make you lull, and those were the articles getting shared on Facebook and stuff?
No.
That was BuzzFeed News.
Yeah,
and BuzzFeed was everywhere. And they produced a couple of movies, and this is the one I've heard people actually say they like, and then the rest are like Hallmark would have thrown it out sort of stuff, you know?
Careful.
I'm saying Hallmark wouldn't have even allowed them.
Oh, that's really bad.
Yeah.
Because they have a low benchmark to begin with.
Yes.
But yeah, the Fall's a really cool movie, and it's got a twist.
I do love a twist.
Yeah, but like I said, if you're afraid of heights, it does not help.
I'm not afraid of heights, weirdly. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to convince my wife to jump out of an airplane with me. I want to so bad. Did you do? Is it awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds
It's pretty cool.
I want to do that. She does not. she says she'll never do it. With
my youth, I went skydiving twice, bungee jumping once.
Nice.
Yeah, now I'm old and my joints hurt and my knees hurt and I can't do anything except sit and complain. I'm a grumpy old man.
I am too somehow. Jessica's agreeing with Andy. He's grumpy. And then he tried to throw his glasses at her. So
no, my cookie.
Oh, well, that's just sharing snacks. So that actually was a very nice thing to do.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I really like Lily James. Like I loved her in Baby Driver, and I think she's a good actress. And I'm interested in this. Apparently, in this reboot, Ray Cooper is a seasoned mountaineer played by Pierce Brosnan. His daughter Sydney, played by Lily James, is. They run a mountain chalet in the Dolomites. During a weekend trip with the billionaire's son, they are targeted by a gang of kidnappers. Ray's older daughter, Naomi, is still haunted by a past climbing accident, witnesses the attack and escapes. To save her family, she must confront her fears and fight for survival in the Italian Dolomites.
Yeah, the original one is better.
You haven't even seen it.
I don't have to.
Is that the same plot?
No.
Really?
No, it's not.
What happened? What's the plot of the original?
The plot of the original was there was a downed airplane with a whole bunch of money from the U.S. Mint.
Ooh.
That John Lithgow and his gang of thieves are trying to kidnap or like trying to steal. And Stallone comes along. He had a thing where he dropped Michael Rooker's in the original one too, dropped his girlfriend from a suspension line. Ooh. And so the two of them trying to work together, and they hate each other because of that accident. And then John Lithgow's trying to find this money, and they're trying to get to it first. And like every time they get to a money before John Lithgow and his gang does, they end up burning it. Oh. So nobody gets it because it's all marked. You can't use it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's in a lot of gunplay, and yeah, the original one's kind of cool.
I don't know, man. I kind of like the idea of the kidnap angle. No. I think that's fun.
Nope.
Why not?
Until I see a trailer, I'm not sold.
Fair enough. But yeah, they shot on location using
Okay.
large format cameras. Scope and scale is going to be
So they're
cool.
using IMAX cameras with that, or no?
It could be IMAX, but it could also just be like a large format digital sensor.
Okay.
So large format would be 65 to 70 millimeter digital sensor.
Okay, cool.
Alexa's got a couple of large format cameras that,
Alrighty.
funny enough, are actually just two Super 35 sensors turned on their side and squished together, and that's how they did large format. And I just think that's neat.
Okay.
Okay, last little bit here. Army Hammer. You know about this guy,
the Lone Ranger, the cannibal.
Lone Ranger. So was he acquitted of that?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
The
if
story
he was or
broke
not.
and then it went away just as fast. And then he did that film with Timothée Chalamet that everybody stayed away from.
Yeah.
And then there was the movie that Jessica and I saw with the telemarketers. Sorry to Bother You, that ends up with this whole wild horse people plot. Like in the future,
I heard that
they're
one really goes off the rails.
Yeah, it does. Like severely. The first part of that is actually really funny. When it gets to the horse people, and it goes off the rails completely.
Now, just to be clear, are you talking about people who are a part horse, or are you talking about bronies?
No, we're talking about people that are part horse and seeing horse dong.
Now, why?
Yeah, exactly. That was our thing too. We're like, this started off so well. How did it spiral out a mother again?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything to even say about that. So apparently, Armie Hammer's looking to get back on track with his acting career despite the shocking allegations that came to light in 2021 and has left him sidelined for the last 3 years. He would say he kind of likes the cannibal accusations now. He said, it's wild. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like the cannibal stuff now. I guess he was acquitted. I don't know. I got to dig into this story for next week and run it back because this was an insane saga going on.
Offer him barbecue and see what he says.
Offer him barbecue at that restaurant that they shot Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Hoopers
at.
in Kingsland.
Yeah.
Yep.
But apparently he's got a comeback project lined up. Now, if you have been publicly accused of doing something grotesque and awful, have been acquitted, presumably, and you were dead broke, and you needed something that would get you back in good graces and make audiences care about you again. Mm-hmm. What would you probably look for as a project?
Probably a rom-com.
Probably a rom-com.
Yeah.
Sure. Maybe something that even, like jokes about the
even
cannibal
like a
stuff.
kid film.
Or a kid film.
Yeah. Something very innocuous and stupid.
Yeah. Something silly that makes people go, oh, he's just a funny guy. How could he be a cannibal?
So he picks a horror film, didn't he?
No, it's worse. It's a Western.
Well, that was The Lone Ranger.
I know. Which does have cannibal stuff in it. Do you remember that?
I don't.
The villain from The Lone Ranger was eating, he was eating men's dongs. That was part of Why was that in The Lone Ranger? Anyway, sorry. I was so baffled when I watched it.
So my question is it Horizons Part 3?
No. That will never exist, my friend.
If you said it was, that would have been hilarious.
That really would have been. Oh, I wish the stars had aligned in such a way. But no, it's called Frontier Crucible. The movie will be starring the Punisher star Thomas Jane, produced by Bone Tomahawk and dragged across concrete producer Dallas Saunier.
Bone Tomahawk's pretty good, though. That's Kurt Russell. That deals with cannibals, too.
Okay, come on, man! Like you're just playing into it, I guess. But yeah, the movie's independently fun. No, I believe you. I just can't believe that he didn't look at that and go, maybe I shouldn't. But also, I heard that Armie Hammer was like trying to serve drinks down in Mexico somewhere or something, was completely penniless, and like his whole life was ruined.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the man was not.
He wasn't really that bad of an actor either. He was okay.
You know what's funny? I actually really like him in The Lone Ranger.
I like The Lone Ranger.
And I think The Lone Ranger has some great action. Like Gore Verbinski was not, was it too long? Yes. Was it weird that they had a man who was a villain because he just wanted to eat a particular type of sausage?
But at least it was better than the original The Legend of the Lone Ranger that was done in the 80s.
I never even saw that.
Yeah. The guy that did the stunt work on Raiders of the Lost Ark was a part of that. And they do the same gag in Legend of the Lone Ranger that they did in Raiders of the Lost Ark underneath the truck. but with a stagecoach full of horses, and the guy got severely hurt.
Ooh, they were so lucky that Harrison Ford didn't get killed doing those stunts, because he did some of them. I think,
he did.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Frontier Crucible Hammer said to be playing one of the key roles in the film, although no other details have been unveiled. It's going to have a couple other people that I don't know their names, so whatever.
It doesn't matter.
And it's going to be a cross between Reservoir Dogs and Bone Tomahawk. So
That is such a bizarre combination,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I gotta see it just from that synopsis.
Yeah. Hold on, Andy. Hold on. I'm so sorry. It just got better.
Okay.
Hammer recently started his own podcast titled, and I kid you not, the Army Hammer Time Podcast. What is that?
Oh, I thought it was going to be What's for Dinner.
That would be very dark. So his first guest was Tom Arnold, and he said he would explain the accusations are a thing that makes so much noise. Like, what makes more noise? Army Hammer is a cannibal, or Army Hammer might not be a cannibal? The cannibal thing makes more noise, and you don't get an apology tour in this world. Like, someone says something about you, everyone believes it, and then they move on with their lives to whatever it is they're focused on because they've got their own lives. And look, he's not wrong.
No.
But, like, I never bought that he was a cannibal. I thought maybe he was into some weird, like, maybe human trafficking
rich and
stuff
famous,
or something.
so he obviously is into something strange.
Yeah, but like cannibalism? That was the one that really got him? That seems insane to me still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was really interesting that Army Hammer was like, yeah, you know what'll be a great comeback for me? A genre no one cares about right now.
And Horizons put the nails in that coffin.
Mm-hmm. And how?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Sadly to say,
I still think there's a great
Westerns.
movie in there somewhere.
There is, if it was one story.
Yes, and also didn't jump around in time in a way that makes it completely incomprehensible. Yeah, shocking that movie.
Yeah, go back to that podcast for that.
Definitely listen to watch Horizon if you can find it. And
well, it's on Max.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Watch it on Max and then listen to the podcast because it's such an interesting sort of
it's an interesting
disaster.
horrible film.
Yeah. But it should be good.
Yeah. But anyway.
Unlike something like, I don't know, let's just say theoretically if someone was to do a cross between, I don't know, Reservoir Dogs and Bone Tomahawk. That would probably be bad. But,
wow.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of the news.
And to the end of this podcast.
And the end of this podcast. Thanks for listening. You can find us online at Grand Review Pod, and let us know what you thought about here. Good, bad, great, or terrible. Did you see it at all?
Or if you saw something that you thought was relevant for us to watch, put it in the comments. We'll definitely. I'll take the challenge if Garrett won't. So
I'll take some challenges.
Okay, cool.
just as long as it's not.
I challenge you to watch The Substance.
I think that one might not freak me out in the same way that Texas Chainsaw did.
I challenge you to watch that.
Okay. Where is it available?
Mumby or something like that. That's where I got it from because I got a free trial.
Mumby?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. I'll let
Are you
know.
having a strunk? What are you, Mumby?
No, I will tell you off microphone.
All right. And with that, I think it's time for us to come to an end. Thank you so much for listening. And as we say at the end of every podcast, we'll see you at the movies. Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.